everybody works for money, but some people work merely for money. And I think that's the important distinction. Like if you work merely for money, you'll just take whoever will pay you the most amount of money and you won't think about it. But if you work for money, but also to make something that helps other people, make a product that benefits someone, then you actually can add some value to the world.
Happy birthday to you. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the No F Cakes podcast. My name is Jim Spelko, and I am your host for this show, and I am honored for you to be here with me today. It is going to be an amazing episode. We have a great guest who will be joining us in a minute. We're going to talk today about a lot of things that are really super important to success, to fulfillment. We're going to talk about what it means to be fulfilled, and not just in the external sense where you are doing great at your professional career, but we're going to talk about fulfillment internally, where you feel truly successful on the inside, where you're aligned with your purpose. This conversation is going to span a lot of different topics. It is an amazing conversation, and there are a lot of important nuggets in this conversation. So I want you to listen intently. I want you to give some honor to our guest, Mr. Alan Lazarus. It has been an amazing conversation. Let's hop into it.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah. So I'm pumped to have this conversation. Now we've teased the idea for a number of days, if not months, about having this conversation. But I feel like now is a really good time because we've been pretty laser focused on the growth of business and people and how to kind of help society change as a whole. So I'd love if you could kind of just give me a brief backstory into your business career, kind of where that started and how you made that change for yourself.
Yeah. So we'll start in, I guess, around 2013. I was working as a level 1 tech support for a real estate developer. It's not exactly an accurate description of what they did, but it's close enough. And I hated it, and I had a bunch of credit card debt, and I randomly started trying to find ways to pay that off and get out of that debt. And I found a blog that I used to read that was about something else entirely, but the owner had quit updating it, and he just had a one-page website there talking about how he was making his living doing something called affiliate marketing, which I'd never heard of at that point. But I started researching that and started getting into that and started doing other odds and ends to start making some extra money. I was doing Amazon Prime to eBay arbitrage, which is against Amazon Prime terms of service, so don't do it. And I was making a little money doing this and that. And then I took a course called Bring the Fresh, which got me into search engine optimization, even though I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time. But I did that, and I had my first site, and it did pretty well. And then there was a Google update that crushed that. And I didn't even know Google updates were a thing because I didn't even know what I was doing was called SEO. And so I had to start over again and figure out how to start. I got hooked by starting to make some money. So I wanted to figure out how to get back to that. So I tried different things again, here and there. And then I bought another course, which was extremely expensive for me at the time. It was like $1,000. And it was called Source Phoenix. And that's when I started doing SEO for clients here and there. Still had my day job at this point, and then doing some affiliate stuff too. In fact, when I was doing taking on those clients, and we're up to about 2014 or so now, I would have to take the phone calls in the bathroom because I was still at my day job, and I didn't want them to know that I was, working on other stuff. And, I started making some money with that and with a little bit of affiliate, but it still wasn't enough. At that point, the credit card debt was mostly paid down. At that point, I wanted to get out of my job. I still wasn't making it enough to where I felt comfortable with that. And then on a whim, in about 2015, I listed a SEO service on a marketplace, and all I did was arbitrage it from another site because I didn't really know how to do anything at the time. And then I still remember the day, I got my first order from it on a PayPal notification on my phone. I was like, what the hell is this? And is it all right if I swear?
Yeah, you're good.
And what the hell is this? And, and then I got a sale from that, and then I listed another service, and then that started getting some orders, and then an influencer, shouted out that service, and I got a bunch of orders. And that's when the freelancing business really took off. And that's what finally got me enough money between that and the client, the other odds and ends I was doing to quit the day job. And then, I was doing pretty well with the freelancing and things like that. But then the site that I was using started having all kinds of problems. We're up to about 2016, early 2017 now. And it started having all sorts of problems. It would crash, it would get hacked, it would be unreliable. So I started selling to through my own website, through my agency, my SEO agency, Superstar SEO, which is what I had called the SEO business. I guess I should have said that sooner. But I started selling my stuff through that site rather than through this marketplace. And I had managed to make friends with a lot of the freelancers on that marketplace. And some of them started saying, can we sell through your site too? Because I managed to build like a community and an email list and stuff around it. So I was still able to keep in contact with it. And at that point, like somebody else had suggested I should create my own version of it. I didn't really think much of it, but somewhere along the line, the light bulb went off and I was like, maybe I should have this too. And I thought I would create it and it would, the marketplace, which would end up being legit. And I thought it would just be like an extra piece of my, like my SEO business, like another product that I could offer. And that launched in February 2018. And within the first month, it was my biggest revenue stream. And it's grown exponentially ever since into a big, global organization does very well and helps a lot of people, makes a lot of money, and is growing into something that doesn't exist in the world. And that's kind of what the last almost 7 years now. And by the way, I guess I left out an important piece there. I don't know how to do development. And so I partnered with you on the development side of that. When you were a customer I had met on that other freelancing site. And I forgot to leave that pretty important piece out. I don't know if you want to rearrange that in the editing, but okay. Yeah. And for the last almost 7 years, that's been my focus. And it's evolved a lot too. I wanted it to just be a marketplace in the beginning. It's turning into something else, but I'm probably getting ahead of ourselves. We'll probably talk about that more, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it really starts to paint that picture of how when this whole thing first started, it was really financial based about, hey, how do I make some money to get out of this current position? But as of now, that's almost just the secondary benefit to what the real objective is. So can you talk a little bit about the shift from, hey, let's just do this thing to make some money, to now where we're looking at hope and growth and the actual values that come from that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't want to be too woo-woo about it. I still like money like anybody else. I feel like you have to say that because it comes off insincere if you don't, because otherwise, why are you even charging then if you just like it for that? But, I still like money, but I have pretty humble tastes. I don't pay myself an exorbitant amount of money. Most of it goes back into the business, and what I found is if you do something, everybody, let me put it this way. Everybody works for money, but some people work merely for money. And I think that's the important distinction. If you work merely for money, you'll just take whoever will pay you the most amount of money and you won't think about it. But if you work for money, but also to make something that helps other people, and by help, I don't necessarily mean in the way that we think of charity, but just make a product that benefits someone, then you actually can add some value to the world. And our goal is to grow businesses and give people hope. And that's kind of the goal with it now. And if you have those kinds of goals and you build your product and your business around those decisions, rather than just increasing the revenue for the last quarter or the last year or the last month or whatever, you'll end up making more money and building a better product that changes the world. So iPhones cost a lot of money, but when Steve Jobs was inventing the iPhone, he didn't do this, I'm going to make this phone that's going to make a lot of money. He wanted to change the way that people communicate. And he ended up making a product, whether what you feel about it or not, it's ended up changing the world and making them a shitload of money and become the highest, most profitable company in history. I think that was the case. So my point is that, if you make something that adds value, the money will, and I hate that expression because it gets abused so much, but if you create something that adds value to people's lives and to businesses, the money will come as a consequence. Now, you still have to have the money for one to make the thing work, but also as the way of keeping score, of making sure that what you're doing is working to impact people, because that's how people tell you that you're having an impact, besides the way that they will quite literally tell you too. But the way that people really tell you is with their wallet. So money's still important, but removing the merely, I think, is the key.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's an important point to make, is that for someone who is running a business, who's looking at, hey, how do I make my business successful? But I think when most people start, they look at, hey, how much money can I make, and use that as the only metric. But as you're growing and changing the definition of success, how important do you think it is to set goals that are not just financial based, but also like impact and, what are the actual core values of the business and how close are you operating to them?
If you want to make something great, then you kind of have to have, I don't want to say goals, because goals are a thing that you accomplish. And I'm not a big fan of goals anymore, because like I don't want to check off I've done this and then it doesn't count anymore. But where were we going with that? Can you?
I mean, really just talking about the importance of, as a business owner, how do you figure out where do you want to go?
Yeah. So if it's just to make money, then you might sell a product that will sell but isn't good, or you might go in a direction that isn't really what you wanted to do with your business or whatever. If you have a vision for where you want to go, then you can start making decisions that may not be the most short-term rewarding financially, but in the long term will be more financially rewarding, but also more rewarding in creating something that changes the world. And I want to be one of those businesses and one of those people who people know their name. Maybe that's narcissistic, but I want everybody that has ever mattered, their name. And that's what I want to be. And if you want to do that, you can't do that based on just making more money than last time. I guess I should add, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you just want to make money. Not every business has to be, world changing. But so I don't want to be like I'm talking down to people that feel that way, but it's not what I want. And I don't think any business that you and I can both name has ever functioned that way.
Right. I think that brings up a good point about humility, because I think there's a fine line to walk where being a leader, I think humility is a really important part of. But a lot of people will falsely categorize it when you're looking at, hey, I want my business to be the most important one, or I want people to know my name, right? How do those two things live alongside of each other, where you still want to be humble as a leader and work with the people on your team and the people inside the business, but also still have that relentless drive to grow to be the biggest and the best?
I think that's where you have to draw the line between you and the company. So I was just talking with my assistant, how I don't want them to ever think of me as more than them. I want to think of, there has to be a hierarchy because companies don't work if you don't have one, but I don't want them to think of me as the boss. I want them to think of me as a colleague or a coworker. And that's as much for me as it is for them. Like, I don't ever want to think of them as like the workers. Like, a thing that irritates the hell out of me is when people refer to, when they say, how do you get something done? Oh, I just get a VA in the Philippines to do it. Like they're a piece of software. Like, remembering that you're just the same as them, you just do a different set of tasks is to do it. But you shouldn't apply that same humility to your company. If, for example, if somebody says, if you have I know it's not exactly that, but we'll call it what you do, a web design agency. If I was to ask you who has the best web design agency, and you said somebody other than you, why should I work with you? Like, you should not be humble about that, because if you don't think that you're the best at if you don't think your company is the best at the thing that you do, why should anybody work with you? It's unethical to take somebody's money if you don't think you can do the best job that can get the result for that person. So I don't think you should be humble at all when it comes to your company. You should scream from the rooftops to reach every person that your business wants to work with, that you're the best and they should use you. And that should also be true, by the way. Like, whether, best, now to be fair, best is, there can only be one best by definition, but it doesn't mean that you can't think that you're the best and you do what the person who is the best would do. So you should do everything you can to tell everybody how great you are, and then you should prove yourself right.
Right. So now, what about the mentality of fake it till you make it? Because I know that's a thing that we've seen a lot, especially with regard to people working with freelancers, where let's say they start a company and they say, hey, I am the best at doing this. I'm going to sell you such and such a job. I'm going to rank your website number one, get them to pay you some money, and then go run off to a forum where they say, hey, I need someone to help me fulfill this job that I basically gave an empty promise. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, well, that's unethical. Like, if you don't know how to deliver for someone, you shouldn't be offering that thing in the first place. Fake it till you make it. I know that probably started from a good place. And there's some value to that, because like, I don't want somebody to, the opposite of that is somebody waits till they're perfect at something to start doing it. You don't have to do that, but you should be able to deliver a quality product or service, and know that when you sell it, when you take someone's money for it. So you shouldn't fake it at all, but you also don't have to be. You should think that you're the best at it when you offer that to them, but you also shouldn't wait until you're perfect at something to get started, because you never will.
Right. And how often do you see people who are sitting on a gold mine of ability or talent or treasure of some shape or kind, where they just refuse to sort of take action because they're waiting for the right lighting, they're waiting for the right, whatever the excuse is, right? How often do you see people who aren't able to achieve the thing that they really want for as simple as a lack of action?
A lot. I don't know that they really want it if they're not taking the action, but that's a whole other tangent. But a lot. It's like, if you want to like start a YouTube channel, just pull out your camera and fucking start talking to the camera, and get started. There's another type of that too. Like there's I don't know why people are like that. I don't relate to it at all. In fact, I tend to go too far the other direction sometimes. But a lot of people just don't get started, and for whatever reason, like, I got to get this first done, I got to get that done, and it drives me absolutely insane. Then there's the other type of person who just, it's not so much that they're waiting for everything to be perfect, it's just that they don't feel, I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or self-esteem or whatever, but they just, they don't feel like they're good enough to get started. So like, you have to balance that too. But no, I have to get like the perfect lighting, and then I got to get my website ready, and I'm going to say, I'll ask somebody, I'll come up with a good idea, and they're like, yeah, that is a good idea. I was like, so when are you going to do it? Oh, next week after I get no, go do it right now. Your time's not that valuable. You know what I mean? And like, so I guess that it's kind of the answer is like a lot. It's to directly answer your question.
Yeah. And I know even like for you, you've had a tremendous amount of success making videos, doing YouTube. And how often do people say, oh, I saw you at such and such, or I saw you in this video, and that's why they contacted you? To look at the amount of success you've had in actually taking action and doing that compared to inside knowledge, like how much time and energy you've spent into perfecting your lighting and your camera in the past year compared to the past 7 years, right? You didn't wait for that to happen. Well, it's really just to talk about, the action taking rather than waiting for it to be perfect, right? Just start with what you have where you're at.
Yeah. If you look back, I have videos that were from like 2016, 2017 that I still get business from, and they were, the production quality on them, maybe not the value in them, but the production quality on them was terrible. Like I cringe, that's an overused word, but I cringe when I see them now. And, but I did it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit off topic, but like, people will use these labels and excuses to not do something. Like they'll say, I'm too introverted to get on camera. I get shy. And they ask me like how to get over that. I'm like, pretend that you're not. Like it's almost insulting in a way, but or oversimplifying. But that's usually how I get over something is if I have this label that I think prevents me from doing it, I just pretend that I'm not. Because if somebody else can do it, I can just pretend like I'm that person and do it. So I think that's something that helps a lot of people. But I kind of got off topic there, but I forget where I was going with that. Yeah, just can do it. You know what I mean? Like stop telling yourself you can and just do it. The difference, like people will say, like, I don't know how you don't get nervous being on camera, and I'm like, I do, but I don't. I do it anyway. Like that's I think the difference between people that get things done and people that don't is that we all get nervous or scared or don't know what to do, but the ones that succeed do it anyway.
Yeah. I think there's a certain amount of like the action builds the belief. So when you go out and you do it, at a certain point you start believing, hey, you're able to do it, and it becomes never easy, right? Because there's still times when you're going to go make that video where that doubt creeps in, but it's easier than when you started, right? Because you have this history of being able to show up and do it.
There's somebody that works in our company that she had for a long time did everything herself, and was somebody that didn't naturally like delegate, and was really bad at that. And she's progressively gotten better at it. And I was talking to her this morning, and we had, I don't want to give away too much, but like we had an issue with an employee where they thought they couldn't do it, the thing that we asked them to do anymore. And I am usually pretty good at getting the best out of people. And I like talked to him and thought I had gotten him to back to where he could do it, or was willing to like confident that he could do it. And I was wrong. And she ended up talking to him and got him back on track. This is the same person that maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, like I had to like force to delegate anything. And now she's like getting the best out of people. So my point is that she's done it progressively over and over throughout that time. And now she's gotten very good at it to the point where she got something out of this person that I didn't. So that's my point is that I guess it's like working out, like, first time you bench press, it's probably difficult and awkward and embarrassing. But like everybody that can bench press, I don't even know if this is a real number, but 500 pounds had a time when they could only bench press 150 pounds and they just had to keep building the reps and doing more.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And, I think it reminds me back to when Legit first started, and it was 2 of us, then it was 3 of us. And then, as it started to grow, seeing the progression of those people along the years, and even yourself, how do you think you've grown as a manager or a leader in that position to sort of inspire people to be the best version of themselves?
I don't know how. I know that I have. It's funny that you asked that because like I was talking with my assistant. We had a meeting before this and about stuff like that. And I was like, I'm glad that she said something to me. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that it looks like that you appreciate what I do and that I'm like able to like help you guys and help you grow and stuff. And I'm glad it looks like I know what I'm doing, but I don't have any experience running a company either. And at least not at this level. So I'm making shit up as I go. But the difference is, I guess I figure out where I want to go and I just make the decisions that I think will get us there. And I get everybody else on board on that vision by explaining the vision and why it's important. And when I do that, they tend to buy into it and give their best to the point where I have to make them stop working sometimes. So I guess the answer is that I don't know what I'm doing. I just figure it out as I go, but I have enough confidence in my ability to make decisions and get other people to buy into those decisions to do it. I don't know if that really answers your question, but
it does. And to give you some honor for a second, I think a big part of that too is your ability to cast a vision that's so big it captures other people's visions inside of it. Right. So you're creating this dream and articulating this dream to other people about, hey, this is the business, this is where it's going. And it's big enough that they can see their dreams come to life inside of that. And I know for you, there's a phrase that hope is you, right, that you use often and talk about the experience that customers will have or community members will have. Can you expand a little bit on what that means to you?
Well, first of all, a little inside baseball. I got the exact quote from a Star Trek episode. So, I don't know if I've ever told you that before, but as far as like what it means behind it, I would get these messages usually from freelancers, but sometimes from customers too, about how much impact like something that we've done or something that we've made or something that some money they made because of us or sale they made or whatever it is, how much impact that had and how it like changed their life and got them to where they could do this or that. I don't want to give away people's particular stories. Check out my site. I have all of them saved there. But, and it made me realize that the one thing that they all wanted was a little bit of hope, and the hope that whatever thing that they're doing will make their life better. Because that's really the only reason you do anything is you hope that it will make things better or make something that's bad no longer bad. And then, happened to see that episode of Star Trek around that time. And I thought that made a lot of sense. And I think we can see it like, particularly with our like customer support, it's really easy to elaborate's not the right word, but like, I don't know, illustrate, I guess, from something like, even when it's something like, how do I upload my thumbnail for my service? That person is hoping that they can list the service and make some money. So by explaining that to by having our customer service person explain that to that person, that it's easy to when you have things like that it's just another one of these. I just have to help them with this again. But you have to remember that person needs some hope. And at that moment, that hope is you, that you can give them that hope by helping them get that out there and figuring it out. So I hope that answers that.
It does. And I think it's really become a beautiful thing because it's sort of cyclical at a certain point where there are moments in the business, and especially over the course of the past 7 years, where even people inside of the business have needed hope. And that hope has come from either other people inside the business or even customers or freelancers, where it becomes this cycle of good, right? So it's not just this thing where we're continuing to give out and we're never filled back up by doing that. But these little stories that you get, the testimonials, the stories of, hey, you guys showed up and did this thing and it allowed me to changed my life in some positive way. I think those little moments, especially when they take the time to share back to us, helps us push through the times when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and we have to work on an emergency or whatever the situation is. Because real talk, it's not always easy. There are certainly some stressful times. For you, when you're looking at how to deal with those stressful times and push through, what are some of the things that help keep you moving forward in that?
Well, what's the easiest way, not easiest, but the best way to handle anything stressful is to just focus on what you can control, and the thing right in front of you. If you start thinking about everything beyond that, then you whatever, but worry about the problem in front of you directly. And then just, think about how, as far as like, if you're looking for like a broader answer, then like how many people are relying on you to solve this, and that can be overwhelming at times too, thinking of it that way. But, by the fact that you have to solve this because, these other people depend on you for their entire living. So I guess that's the two answers to that are somewhat stoicism in that only think about what you can control. And that's frustrating for me when it's like a tech issue and I have to rely on you and other people to fix it and I can't do anything. That's very hard for me at times. But, I try to look at that as the thing that I did was making sure that I had the people that can solve it. That's my thing that I can control. So I try to look at what I can control. And I guess it's kind of stoicism in a way that you only worry about what you can control. I haven't really fully read that book, but, and then to think about how important it is to solve this. Like you can't just throw up your hands and say, fuck it, we're getting DDoS. There's nothing I can do about it. I'll just go start a new business. Like there's too many people that depend on what we do to let that happen. So that's another motivation to fix the issue and deal with the stress. Plus stress is bad for you and learning how to deal with that is important too, but that's another topic.
Which actually brings me up to a great point. I know that for you, your health has been a priority and especially more so in the recent years. Like as you've achieved business success, then came like the physical health and success in that. Could you sort of take me through a little bit of that journey and sort of realizing that and things that you've put into place after that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's something I realized. Like one day I didn't think of it, and then one day I did. It wasn't switched like that because people tend to think that's how things work. I don't really know. I guess where it really started was a while back. I started having like some I don't want to call it pain, but like tightness in my chest, and I like couldn't figure out what was going on, and I got really depressed and like just kind of like it was looking back on it, I was being overly dramatic, but I was like, I'm just not going to wake up tomorrow. And then like I tried to go to a doctor, and I couldn't find a fucking doctor. Like it took that wasn't available for like 6 months, and it felt like the one time I needed somebody to help me, nobody would help me. So I started to figure it out on my own. And I think I started gradually, like I started doing like losing some weight and doing some new exercises and taking some new supplements. And one thing led to the next, into the tracking, for a while I was even toying with a fitness brand or a wellness brand. I don't think I'm going to do that after all, because I just have too many things going on. But I don't know. It just, it helped me. I don't know how to put it. I mean, your body is your vehicle, so you have to have a good vehicle if you want to get where you're going. So I just learned how to continually optimize that and, get troubleshoot it myself, because like this is a rant, but our medical system is not equipped to handle things that they can't find a test that will answer. And like none of the medical tests I took would tell me why I was having chest pains. And I eventually figured out it was an allergy to like coffee. It wasn't even caffeine, but like to coffee itself. For some reason that caused me to get like tightness in my chest. So I stopped doing that. But in the process of figuring that out, I like ended up losing a bunch of weight and trying some new supplements that had other benefits and to be perfectly honest, some drawbacks too. But they have improved. They've made me a better person and a better business person doing that. And the negative effect that I briefly mentioned there was that it can quickly become an obsession all its own and an addiction all its own and be problematic at that. And I definitely went too far with it for a while and like, oh my God, my heart rate was one beat higher last night. What did I do wrong? Kind of thing. So there's definitely hyper optimization has its dark side, but I made a video about this a while back, but I think it's been great for business. I think it's been great for me personally. So it was an area I neglected from 13 or 14, whenever I started doing the business. I gave everything to the business because I thought that's what was necessary, and it worked, but in the consequence of that was I didn't have my health. I gained a lot of weight. I didn't have any hobbies or life outside of work, and I was all alone. I have family, but I didn't have like friends or significant others, whatever the term is for them these days. So I let all that go, and by fixing my health, I managed to improve other things too.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think it leads me to ask about a topic I know you and I have talked about a lot, work-life balance, right? A term that a lot of people use, I think, as an excuse. But like, when you talk about when you started the business, you dedicated so much time and energy into the business that everything else kind of fell off. I think a lot of people fall into that same scenario where then, they struggle with, hey, how do I be the best version of myself physically and professionally at the same time? So what's your perspective on work-life balance?
People that say they want work-life balance usually don't want to work. So I think that's what's wrong with that expression, is that to most people, I want work-life balance means I want to work as little as possible and do as much of whatever it is that they want to do as possible. And that's not what it means, because balance does not mean having one thing be more either. Balance is like, you picture the statue with the blindfold, and it's that Lady Justice or whatever it is. The weight thing, it's not one side like this, it's balance. I don't like that expression for that reason. And I don't like it because it implies that they should be two separate things that should be equal. I think they should be one thing that is harmonious with one another. And you've somewhat appropriated that term from me on occasion. But I think that there should be a harmony between your business and your life. Like the fact that business got better the better I took care of myself is kind of what I mean by that. They need to be integrated into one another as opposed to balancing one another. Because if you're trying to balance them, you are never balanced, because you're trying to balance things. I never made that analogy before, but I think it makes sense. I think that, and what you need to do is find ways to integrate. I don't have a family, so it's maybe easier for me to say that, but integrate, family and health and recreation into your business. But also, I think that a part of the reason that people want that is they think of work as this bad thing. And, as someone that's had shit jobs, I certainly understand that. And just quick caveat, the job that I quit to do this is I always feel like I end up like shitting on that job more than it deserves. So nothing against the people. They still follow me, and I always feel bad because sometimes I see them in public and they like, but anyway, if you have a shit job, I get why you think of work as this bad thing you have to do. And I understand that that it's privileged for me to say you need to work on something that fulfills you, and then work won't be a thing that you have to do. It'll be just another thing in your life. And I get that maybe not everyone's going to be able to do that, but that should be the goal. And that's how you blend it all together and make it all harmonious, is that each thing makes you better at the other thing. Like my work makes it better that I can afford all these fucking toys behind me. And then having all those toys behind me gives me release and enjoyment to go work harder and so on. So, and then being healthy makes me be able to work more hours, which makes me be able to afford the absurd amount of things that you can buy to make your life better. It's, your health better. So they all, instead of balance, they all integrate or create harmony. So I guess that's the answer.
Yes. Yeah, that was certainly it. And obviously, I agree. When you talk about kind of learning and growth, how have you found the process of continuing to grow and to learn, whether it's books or audiobooks or continuing to, I know you take lessons for training, for martial arts. Like there's a lot of continued growth beyond just, hey, I made it, I have a successful company, I'm in really great shape. Like, where does the drive to continue to grow come from?
Well, first of all, talking about learning in business, you get to a certain level and it gets really hard to find resources to get better from. In the beginning, I talked about, I got this course and this forum and this course. That's because I was still I don't want this to be putting down on anyone that's at that level, but it's still a low level. So it was easier to build skills. The skills that I need now, it's much harder to, I know this isn't your question, but I want to make this point, is they are much harder to find people that have what I need and are willing to give me, willing to help you advance. So I don't know if you've run into that too, but like masterminds and courses and coaching, like they don't really do me any good anymore. At least the ones I've been fortunate enough to find. I guess what I'm saying is that's the way that you take leaps and bounds is by learning from people that are better than you and have done things beyond what you are doing. And you basically are you're basically paying them for the time it took them to figure out how to do it. When you get past I'm sorry, go ahead.
As you continue to elevate yourself, the pool of knowledge sort of gets smaller because there's less people sort of ahead of you in that journey.
Not only are there less people, but the people that are ahead of you are less likely to want to be able to help you. Like I can't just go knock on, this is not a good example. I can't just go knock on somebody I admire that's still alive. I can't just go like knock on Jeff Bezos's door and ask him if he can show me how to set up run an e-commerce site, and that's who I would, if I'm in an ideal world, that's who I would go talk to. But, I can't he's not going to do that. So you try to go like a rung down until you get to where there's somebody that can help you. And it gets harder the further along you get because, so anyway, and what was the original question?
Well, I think just to expand on that, it gets easier to use that as an excuse not to grow, right? So as that becomes a thing for you, or anyone who's really growing, if it's harder to find that next person ahead of you because that pool continues to shrink, it's easier to use that as an excuse to say, I've already made it. I have all the information I need. I don't need to learn anymore. So to look at what steps would you take to continue to expand and to continue to grow? I know you're a fan of reading or physical or audiobooks, and that's a great resource as well. So I'm just curious for your pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah, so I think that watching what people do and figuring out why they're doing it, and it's what lesson you can take from that. So Alex Hormozy, he's and Sam Ovens own school. That's not the same kind of business that we have, but some of the things that they're doing to grow that are things that I can look at why they're doing that and extract some value for that I can implement into what we're doing in not in a copying way, but in a similar way. So I think that's the thing to do, is to find people that are doing things that you can take a piece of that and use it to grow. Now, the downside to that is if you, hey, here's the sound effect there. The downside to that is the thing you see them doing might not be working. So, you take that gamble. In the past, I'd see an ad that I thought was good and like copy it, and it didn't work. And I realized that it might not be that I didn't do it wrong. It might be it didn't work for them either. So that's, anyway. But yeah, there's that. Books are good as long as you realize that 90% of the book you aren't going to get anything from, and probably more than 90%. But if you can pick one thing from it, then it's a great way to do it. It's also just a great way to feed your brain rather than, I don't know, even music is not ideal. I like music sometimes still, but it's a great way to feed your brain when you're doing other things that like walking or exercising or something. It's a great way to multitask. I've picked up a lot of things. Most of the things I picked up from books, I picked up like one thing out of a 12 or 27 hour book. I say hour because I do mostly audiobooks. Like one book that I did that impacted our direction a lot was called Mere Monopolies. And I feel bad because I can never remember the author's name. But that book was all about platforms that had changed the world rather than products. And that was part of the direction that we took from being just, instead of just being a marketplace, but being a...
Alex.
I was wondering what the hell you were doing. Yeah, that's the one. I didn't know that you had that.
Yep, good book.
Yeah, but like that one little, like, that was a little switch that has literally changed our direction for the last 2.5 years or whatever it is. Side note to that, I got recommended that because of a $10,000 mastermind with Tai Lopez that I bought into, that I got absolutely nothing else out of except for that one book recommendation. So was that worth 10 grand? I don't know. I felt like he should have provided a little more value than he did, but I still got something out of it, So, and then the other one is the Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson, which is just a great read, even if you're not in the business. It's just an interesting book. But that when I got out of that was the expanded on the platform idea and I got how he wanted to make Apple like the hub of your entertainment and information. And I kind of went from that. I learned that I decided to make our business the hub of somebody's business to where they could plug in their business and get all the tools and training and tracking and talent that they need. You see how I did that to grow their business. But that was the inspiration for that. And also I learned a lot about management. You may have asked me about this earlier, but management from his management style, he had what they call a reality distortion field, where he would say that I want to get this thing done by this time. And engineers, as they are prone to do, would say that it's not possible. And he would just expect them to get it done in that time anyway, and they would. And so those are things those are little nuggets I pick up here and there. So that's what's been, is that the most effective way to learn? I don't know. I don't know. That's what's worked for me. There probably are better ways, to be perfectly honest, but that's what's working for me. And as far as like non-business stuff, I definitely believe in hiring people that are better at it, are professional and better at it than you, to help you do the thing that they are good at. Like I don't anymore, but I had like a diet coach for a while. I still have like Muay Thai and boxing coaches. That's one of the ways I stay fit. What else? There was another one I was going to add that, but my point is that in all the areas of your life, there's somebody that's better at that something than you. And most of the time you can pay them to either do it for you or show you how to do it. And that's the other way you take that quantum leap forward, is like money gives you options. We talked about money in the beginning. Another thing that money gives you is options. So I don't have to spend my time learning how to do something. I can pay somebody that already knows how to do it to either do it for me or show me how to do it. So I feel like I gave a really long answer to that, but that's kind of the answer.
No, I think it was definitely well said. And, even at the top, I don't think this can be emphasized enough. Michael Jordan has a coach. LeBron James has a coach. Like every elite, whether you want to look at elite athletes, because I think that's just an easy example to look at, or whoever it is you want to look at the top of their game, still has a coach. And I think it's that level of community, it's a level of camaraderie, it's a level of like, hey, let me come alongside you and give you some knowledge and support and wisdom. Even I think sometimes if it's just to give you a different perspective, because I think a lot of times we tend to think we can figure out the answer on our own, but a lot of times we are too close to the canvas to really see all the colors accurately. And it takes someone coming alongside you to say, hey, why don't you do this? Right. And just give you a little bit different perspective.
I worked in politics for a while before this. And one of the things that the good candidates that I worked for would do was have somebody whose job it was, it's not like their official job, but their, like their job, part of their job was to tell them when they were wrong, because like they live in a world where people are anxious to please them and just say yes. And they need someone and sometimes it's their wife or their significant other or a child or a friend. Or sometimes it's somebody like actually employed, but the ones that I saw that were good had somebody that could tell them when they were being an asshole, or when they were, they need somebody to tell them when they're wrong. I have somebody that works for me that I told that person that I need you to tell me when I'm wrong or being a jerk or whatever, because, it's too easy to buy your own hype. And extending I don't want to get political, but extending the politician example, like whoever the president is, not saying the specific president, but whoever the president is, there's too many things that they have to make decisions on that they can't possibly have expert opinions on, or so they have to hire, consultants or advisors or whatever on that particular topic, and they have to listen to them because nobody can know about healthcare policy and foreign policy and all these things. So even at that, you said it, no matter what level you get to, there's still somebody that has it. Even like the leaders of the world have to have people to tell them because they can't know everything.
Yeah, it's a great point. Even to expand on that a little bit, without getting political, too many people, I think, look at a president or a leader as an example of who they should be. And I think for me, the point I kind of want to make in that is, no matter who it is, no matter who wins an election, neither of those people are going to ultimately solve your problem unless you decide to solve it for yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, we can't fix problems that we have in society until we fix ourselves. So the people that we put in charge are consequences of our decisions and not the people forcing those decisions on us. at least in democratic countries. I can't speak for everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think it's an important mindset for people to grasp, especially as we continue to move forward with this whole shenanigans. Like, a lot of people are looking for one person to solve their problems or one person to blame their problems on. But, I know that you have been a person who's taken extreme accountability for, hey, this is the results of these actions are mine from the actions I took. And I certainly admire your ability to take that accountability. I'm curious if you have advice for other people on how they can be more accountable for their own actions.
I think that the thing is to look at it as a good thing, because if you're not accountable for it, you don't have the power to improve it. If something is somebody else's fault, or somebody else is getting the credit, you don't have the control. Or I guess I keep coming back to control, which probably need to think about. But you don't have the control. As long as it's an external thing, you don't have the ability to make it better. And maybe that's what you want, and you don't have to do the hard work. But I accept responsibility for stuff that's not even really my fault, to be perfectly honest. But as long as I accept the responsibility for it, I can make it better. If I don't, then I can't. And I think that's the way to learn to deal with things like that. It's uncomfortable, because sometimes that's going to mean that you have to admit that something you did was wrong, or it might mean even accepting something that you didn't do wrong, that's not fair, that you have to solve, but you still have to solve it. Or even if you don't have to, by accepting that you can and accepting the responsibility, you have the ability to make it better. And maybe that's just narcissism, but I would rather be able to make it better myself than waiting for somebody else to make it better for me.
Yeah, I don't know a better way to sum that up. So I think you said that very well. We're kind of running out of time here, so just want to offer up any last final words or pieces of advice that you may have.
Off the record, or we're not live, are we? Off the record, what's your thing here? I want to say something that ties into the point of your show.
Nothing really. It's just about being the best version of yourself in all the areas, whether it's professionally, personally, emotionally, financially, the relationships with spirituality. So it's really just operating in excellence in all of those areas.
Yeah. So at the end of I do a lot of live streams for my business, and I've kind of been changing it up lately. But at the end, I always say, figure out which one in life, go out and get it, because you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to the world. When I say that, what I mean is that you have to. I don't like goals, because we tend to think of goals as a thing you check off on a list, that you've done it and now it's done. But I think that you have to have an idea of where you want to go, because you can't get anywhere if you don't know where you're going. So when I say figure out what you want out of life, is figure out the thing that you're trying to do, and then make sure all the decisions that you have are in service of that, for lack of a better word, in service of that goal. And then when you do that, the decisions you make will be better, and you'll get closer to that. To use another analogy, I don't know, not an analogy, but I guess it's a parable or something, is that the way to get to Mount Olympus is make sure that every step you take is in that direction. So, figure out where you want to be, and then just make sure everything you do gets you closer to that. I know that's a bit abstract, but it can be something tangible, I want to make $1 million. So, and it shouldn't be a monetary thing, but that's just an easy way to explain it. So make sure that everything you do gets you closer to making $1 million. It might be that you want to make, I don't know, have a good family. I shouldn't really talk about, but you want to be a successful parent and spouse, then make sure that everything you do is in service of that goal. So everything, as long as you know where you're going, then you can start making better decisions. And the better decisions you make, the closer you'll get to where you're going, and the more it won't seem like work. Work won't seem like a thing you have to do. Work will seem like a thing that's part of what you do. And that's kind of the answer, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Well said. So again, just want to thank you for taking the time to share all of that. I know it was a lot of great value that I received from that, even things that I've heard before. You have said them even better today. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'll make sure I include some links in the show notes for everything we talked about. But again, yes, we will make sure we do that.
Yeah, well, I want to make that point too. I say, please give me money, because even though we said that money is not the goal, it's still the way that you get there. So please give me as much of it as you can.
Perfect. I'll make sure we do that. So again, thank you. And I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.